It's an enriching time to be a creative. Hi, I'm Laurie Fagen, and welcome to AZ Creates, a web series about the many creative people right here in the Grand Canyon State. Artists enrich the lives of others, sharing their work, devoting hours to their craft, and then sharing and often giving away their art. On today's show, we'll introduce you to two artists who enrich the lives of others: oil painter Casey Cheuvront from the Rio Verde foothills area, whose artwork adorns the walls of many, and author John J. Rust of Prescott, whose books line the shelves of his readers. We'll highlight the Art Resource Center for teachers and artists, and Cathy Beard will bring more arts events for you from all around the state. Then we will close with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. in honor of Black History Month. That's all straight ahead. AZ Creates is sponsored by Mary Contreras State Farm Insurance. A longtime supporter of the arts, Contreras offers insurance for autos, homeowners, renters, personal, business, life, and health, plus annuities and mutual funds. Located in Tempe, contact Mary Contreras through her website at marycontreras.com. On today's Creative Connection segment, we'd like you to meet oil painter Casey Cheuvront from the Rio Verde foothills area north of Scottsdale. And she has been a creative since she was a little girl. Thanks for being on AZ Creates today, Casey.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Now, you say you have a real love of the outdoors, which is primarily what you paint. You say that your hiking boots are your favorite shoes because they get you up close and personal with your Southwest landscapes, wildlife, and still life. And you said that your father had a great influence on you, both as through nature as well as through art when you were just a child. Tell us about some of your early memories, if you would, of being creative.
I spent an awful lot of time at my father's heels, as it were, traipsing around the woods. He was a big outdoorsman. He was a bow hunter. He competed in archery contests when I was a kiddo. He loved to fish, so we would go out fishing together. I didn't go hunting with him because, back in those days, that kind of wasn't something that, little girls did. But he really instilled a love of the outdoors in me and made it very clear that caring for the environment was important and that having respect for the animals in the environment was very important. So I learned a lot from him, and it stayed with me all my life.
And then you mentioned that your mother was not necessarily quite so artistic, but tell me about your earliest memory of that white blank canvas.
Mom was not outdoorsy. She was artistic, craftsy, but she was not an outdoorsy gal. Her idea of dressing down was only wearing 2 pairs of false eyelashes instead of the usual 4. My first canvas that I can remember, I stumbled on Mother's jar of bright red nail enamel. I think it was called Love That Red by Revlon. And they brought it back some years ago, which is why I know. And I remember making beautiful marks on the wall in the living room at, maybe two feet off the floor. I was very little, maybe 3. That was probably my first canvas. Yeah, the critics were not impressed.
Not so much, but you redeemed yourself, I would say. Now, you also told me you spent time in corporate America, working in high tech, and while you were working on a psychology degree, going back to college, you said you took just about as many art classes in a wide variety of mediums during college, too. How did you incorporate your art that went along with your work life and also with your studies?
Oh, well, as an undergraduate, I took many, many art classes. I spent a lot of time in the ceramic studio in particular. And oh my gosh, they just gave up on me and would just leave me alone in there. I would stay sometimes until the wee hours of the morning working on things. But I also took printmaking, I took paper making, I took drawing, I took painting, I took everything I could get my hands on. So I had a fairly diverse grounding as a young adult. and then went into corporate America, worked for a number of years. And instead of painting or doing ceramics steadily, because that requires a kiln and a studio and so forth, I took to dance. And so I competed in dance for, 15 or 20 years, and had a lot of fun there, and did that for quite some time. I had my share of trophies and ribbons, but that was then. This is now.
And then you said you also, just during the corporate time, you just kind of stuck with some sketching and
Yes.
that type of thing, a little simpler, right?
Right. After I left graduate school and I went back to corporate America, where I was largely in sales and demand generation / marketing work. At the end of the day, I would come out, I'd cook a little bit, and I'd do some sketching and a lot of colored pencil work and colored pens, just to kind of keep a hand in. And for me, it was a stress reliever and just something fun to do that was working on the other side of the brain for a while.
Absolutely. And a lot of people just, get rid of art, if they've done it earlier when they're working. So it was great that you could keep up with that. Let's talk about some influences other than your father. You told me about several the other day. Could you maybe just pick a couple and just tell us about some of the most significant artists maybe who you've worked with or studied with?
Oh, gosh. I've been really fortunate. I've had a lot of really great instructors and great influences. Bill Kramer, who is a fantastic Southwestern Impressionist painter. I had an opportunity to work with him on more than one occasion. Dave Santianes, I actually received a scholarship to take a workshop from him through the Sedona Art Center. Dave and Bill, just terrific guys, both of them, and outstanding painters. I took very early on a color boot camp workshop from Camille Prozwodik, which I still hear her voice in my head to this day. Camille, by the way, was just inducted by OPA, Oil Painters of America, to join their master's level, which is as high as you can get. So congratulations to Camille. I worked with Ken Willingham in June Lake, California. I did a professional ceramics internship with him, which was, again, outstanding. Kenny's one of my favorite people. I still keep in touch with him. I also met Alan Walton. I was hosting an OPA plein air event in partnership with the Sedona Art Center a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic. And Alan came and painted with us. And if you don't know Alan's work, you need to look it up, Wolton. He is a remarkable painter. And, again, just one of the nicest people that I've ever met. Still keep in touch with him and his beautiful wife, Danny.
Nice. Let's take a look at some of your work now, if we could. Your landscapes are beautiful. Tell us a little bit about Adobe Jack Trailhead.
Oh, Adobe Jack. Adobe Jack Trailhead is right in the middle of town in Sedona. So you're driving up 89A toward Cottonwood, and on the right-hand side of the north side of the street, there's a tiny little turnout with maybe half a dozen parking spaces. If you're lucky, you'll get a parking space there. And I love it because it is an overlook that views one of my favorite rock formations in Sedona. It's called Morning Glory Spire. Up close, it really isn't all that inspiring. See what I did there? But from far away, it's really, really striking. I love painting it. I think it's absolutely poetic and lyrical. And I love the way that it rises. And if you can get a day where you have a little bit of cloud cover and get some cloud action behind it, it's just one of the prettiest sights, I think, that Sedona has to offer.
Nice. And I really love your clouds as well. They're
Thank you.
quite spectacular. Tell us how Desert Skies came to be.
That's another perennial favorite. Actually, a friend of mine, her name is Jen Stieg. She's not a painter. She's not a representational artist, but she is a Native American flutist and very, very talented there. And she takes a lot of photographs as well. She took a photograph, she walks, morning and evening, and she just casually shot this photo over the canal, which is near where she lives on one of her morning hikes. And when I saw it on Facebook, I said, oh my God, I really want to paint that. And she gave me permission. And I've been painting it ever since. I can't tell you how many times I have painted that reference, but it's a favorite. I really do love it.
Very nice. and you also enjoy painting birds and other animals. Tell us a little bit about Charlie's Raven.
Charlie's Raven. I do love painting birds. I love painting ravens in particular. There are a couple that have made their home near where I live. They sort of own this area. We live, by the way, on a dirt road, and we bring our water in by truck. So it's quite a rural area. This particular painting, again, a photograph reference that was taken by a friend of mine. His name is Charlie Alolkoy, Alolkoy. He's a Native American sculptor and photographer who lives in the Old Pueblo in Tucson. And he also has been really generous in sharing his references with me. So I saw this photograph, absolutely loved it, wanted to paint it because the raven seemed to have, sort of an attitude like, I'm a raven and I'm cool, and I know I'm cool. I really wanted to get that personality of the bird, and create that experience between the viewer and the piece. Charlie graciously gave us permission, and I put it up on Facebook and shared it on my website. And a little while later, I got an email from his wife, Kira, who said she really loved the piece and she wanted it for him for their anniversary. So she purchased it for him. And subsequently, they bought a couple more pieces, one of which was another reference of his, and they have a little raven painting shrine now in their home, which I
And now it
love.
indeed is Charlie's Raven. Now
it is Charlie's Raven, yes.
That's right. That's right. Very nice. So the pandemic has kept many people and many artists inside, but you have been able to do some outdoor activities safely, including a plein air event in Sedona. Tell us, first of all, tell us what plein air actually means, and how did it work for those in person and those virtually?
Sure. So plein air just means, it's from the French en plein air, and it just means in the open air. So it refers to a genre of painting which is generally outdoors, alla prima, which means all at once. So it's wet on wet. And most plein air competitions or festivals or shows require that the work be executed on site, kind of while you're looking at. They might allow you a little bit of touch up, 10 or 20%, but it has to be done on site. But it's a lot of fun. It marries the two things that I love, more than anything, painting and being outdoors. So it's one of my favorite things to do.
And so this particular event, and there were a few people who actually went to Sedona and did it like you, with your timeshare up there, did it live. And then other people were doing it virtually from around the country, right?
There were some of us that were able to travel to Sedona, including myself, and, stay up there and do some painting locally. There were a number of other painters, however, who painted en plein air, alla prima, at their location. So we had one person, for example, painting seascapes, another person painting forests, but they were all plein air paintings. And then the show itself this past year was virtual. In years past, it had been a live show with a big reception and lots of people. Well, obviously that didn't happen. But it was a great show, and it was a good opportunity. And we're hoping to do it again this year.
Now, Casey, many artists have been enriching others' lives through not only their work, but teaching, and you are no exception to that. Tell us about what's in store for you as far as classes go this year and in 2021, other shows you're hoping to get into.
Sure. Well, Lord knows I try. I do teach at the Verdes Art League, which is right around the corner from me. I do oil and cold wax painting. I do oil painting for them. I do watercolor, and I have a pastel class coming up. This should look familiar. It's the same piece that we showed a little bit earlier, only rendered in pastel. So I wanted to show the versatility of the medium. I have coming up, I believe in March, I have an intuitive abstracts class that I'll be teaching there. I'm probably going to be teaching, hopefully after I get vaccinated, I'll be teaching for the Sonoran Art League as well. I'm on the committee there for live teaching, but I feel a little constrained at the moment. I think a lot of us do. And I'm working on putting some virtual classes together so that I can share those with students, who maybe can't make the classes or who don't feel comfortable themselves.
Sure. And then what about some of the shows you're hoping to get into this year?
Well, We'll see. I'm thinking about doing Hidden in the Hills. Again, it's going to depend on how things develop with the pandemic and if I can get vaccinated. Believe it or not, I'm not yet 65, so I have to wait a little while. I'm not in one of the earliest groups. Another show that I'm hoping to get into is the Mountain Oyster Show. I'm presuming that we'll be doing the Plein Air Festival again in Sedona. And then last year I participated in the first Prescott Plein Air Festival. That was through their the Prescott Nature History Museum. And I'm hoping that they'll hold another one this year. I'm hoping to get into that as well. So
great.
We'll see.
Great. Sounds like it'll be a busy year. Let's hope. Let's hope. Okay, how about a little lightning round and just some short word answers for these? How have you been faring during the pandemic?
I had 2 surgeries this past year, so I figure I probably lost about a third of the year, but I've managed to stay busy. I'm taking classes and working online and painting away.
Good. And what are your studio hours typically like?
Whenever I'm in here, I'm working. And this is where I spend most of my time. I'm either in here working or I'm in the kitchen cooking.
Very good. Very good. So you can learn more about Casey Cheuvront's art at her website at CaseyCheuvront.com, and that's CHEUVRONT.com. And she's also on Instagram and Facebook as well. Continued success in all of your endeavors, Casey, and thanks for being with us today on AZ Creates.
Thank you, Laurie. I had a great time. I really appreciate you having me with you.
You're welcome.
Our featured arts organization and upcoming arts events are next. Stick around. AZ Creates is sponsored by the Times Media Group, a digital and print media company that operates in the Phoenix and Tucson metro markets. It serves a wide variety of demographic audiences and communities with more than 1.1 million printed copies and millions of online readers each month. Publications include the Santan Sun News, Chandler Arizonan, Gilbert Sun News, Mesa Tribune, Scottsdale Progress, and many more. For details, visit Times Publications at timespublications.com. This time of year, our weather is perfect to take in some outdoor arts events, and that's coming up. But first, AZ Creates highlights. The Art Resource Center in Tempe, a 501c3 nonprofit that recycles reusable discards and offers them free of charge to schools and other nonprofit groups for the purpose of making art. Local artists and individuals may also purchase materials that are donated by individuals and industries, which include everything from paintbrushes and paper to fabric and beads. Help facilitate dreams into works of art by donating art and other supplies or making a monetary contribution by visiting the ARC at artresourcecenter.org. We're still seeing some big arts events being canceled or continuing online, so until the vaccine is completely rolled out, please support those virtual events as well. Cathy Beard, who also provides all the graphics and the social media promos for us, has a list of great activities for you.
We celebrate Black History Month with several theatrical events. And with spring on the rise, there are more activities available. In-person events are still following COVID protocols, or you can be safe at home with a virtual experience. Whether it's at a museum, theater, gallery, or concert, we hope you'll support Arizona's creative talent. Get your celebration of Black History Month off to a dancing good start. For one night only, the Chandler Center for the Arts presents through their CCA Anywhere virtual series, Legendary Ladies of Soul. From gospel to Motown to soul, you'll hear the pop hits of music icons Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, The Supremes, Donna Summer, and much more, performed by 3 local powerhouse vocalists, Courtney Washington, Aaron Patton, and Mitzi Smith. This free event is on Thursday, February 25th at 7 p.m. For more details, visit chandlercenter.org/events. On exhibit now at the West Valley Arts HQ Gallery, continue the celebration of Black History Month with Imprint, African Americans in the Arts. This exhibit features Black artists Joe Willie Smith, Alvin Galloway, Phelan Booker, Wanda King, Cathy Williams, John Neville, and Gideon Nyonhongo, who create thoughtful and captivating dialogue through visual and interactive concepts. The exhibit ends March 5th. For more details, visit westvalleyarts.org. The Sonoran Desert Chorale presents an online performance of Songs for Humankind on Saturday, February 27th at 7:30 p.m. This musical event includes songs of hope and encouragement. From the stirring Keep Your Hand on the Plow to the beautiful anthem Bashana Haba'a. You'll also hear the Beatles' Enduring in My Life and the Renee Clausen 3 Whitman settings, which includes inspiring poems by Walt Whitman and brought to life in a beautiful musical setting. And the concert closes with the chorale's performance of Simple Gifts, a special arrangement of the beloved Shaker hymn. This concert is only available on their website at sonorandesertchorale.org. Bach is back as the Arizona Bach Festival returns for its 12th anniversary season, with renowned artists performing the works of Johann Sebastian Bach. Due to the pandemic, the 3 concerts of the 2021 festival will be held virtually through YouTube. In lieu of tickets, you can purchase a festival pass that gives you access to all 3 events for your entire household. Or consider a Festival Pass Plus that adds a Meet the Artist Zoom session. To learn more or purchase your passes, visit ArizonaBachFestival.org. Native American contemporary culture comes alive at the Arizona Heritage Center as they present Current State by local artist Thomas Breeze Marcus, now through March 31st. Curated in collaboration with the Arizona Historical Society, this collection explores Breeze's personal experiences and identity as part of the Akimel and Tohono O'odham communities. Breeze's signature style combines graffiti and traditional O'odham basketry to reflect on the connections between the past, present, and future. To learn more, visit ArizonaHistoricalSociety.org. Want some hard-driving, old-school New Orleans-style rhythm and blues? Check out this unique drive-in concert Saturday, February 27th at 6 p.m. at the Gaslight Theater in Tucson. The Porch Concert, Mr. Boogie Woogie and the Weed Whackers, brings you the fastest piano-thumping boogeyman from the Netherlands. Learn more at thegaslighttheater.com. For all you musical and mystery lovers, the Phoenix Theater Company presents Murder for Two in their socialized distance outdoor theater, now through February 28th. This murder mystery with a new spin has only 2 performers taking on all of the parts, from detective to the killer. Expect witty banter, colorful characters, and delicious suspense. Masks must be worn throughout the performance. To learn more and purchase your tickets, go to phoenixtheater.com. A comedy hit that has entertained numerous generations with its hilarious tale of mistaken identity. Charlie's Aunt will be presented by the Hale Theater in Gilbert, February 11th through March 27th. Truly considered the original Mrs. Doubtfire, it is a tale of 2 men hopelessly in love with their sweethearts, but because of Victorian etiquette, they must have chaperones at all times, even while they propose. Coming to the rescue is Charlie's aunt from Brazil, but she doesn't arrive in time, so they turn to a buddy to fill in, dress and all. To purchase tickets, visit HaleTheaterArizona.com. Music and dance couldn't be better as the Arizona Broadway Theater presents Crazy for Gershwin, February 26th through March 21st. Fan favorite Curtis Overby has created the musical spectacular in tribute to the music of George and Ira Gershwin that will transport you to the days of the trill of the solo clarinet with its spine-tingling run of Rhapsody in Blue, to the tap-dancing duo of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers that features the favorite tunes of I've Got Rhythm, A Foggy Day, and Let's Call the Whole Thing Off, plus never-before-heard musical mashups and tap-dancing galore. Who could ask for anything more? You can, with tickets through azbroadway.org. Somewhere in a parking garage in Tempe, a unique performance is about to take place. Get in on the fun with Room for Two, a drive-up pop-up performance by the ladies on February 27 and March 6 at 6:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. With the help of the garage attendant, Stan, the ladies host an impromptu party from Trivial Pursuit to smooth jazz, and audience members can expect a hilariously awkward and fun experience from the safety of their cars. Audience members will receive a reserved parking spot and watch the ladies performed by the light of their high beams to a soundtrack from their car radios. The location with directions will be sent 24 hours prior to the performance date. This performance is sponsored by the City of Tempe and the Downtown Tempe Authority. For tickets and information, visit wearetheladies.net. The Tizart Center and Gallery in Prescott is featuring several art events and classes. In the mezzanine gallery, the art of Corbin Ross, wood and mixed media infused art and furniture is on display now through March 3rd. Contemporary printmakers of Prescott will be featured in Making Our Mark 2021 from February 25th through March 23rd. The gallery will also host Prescott's 4th Friday Art Walk at Tiz on February 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. And do you want to learn, expand, or improve your vision and painting techniques? Then join the oil and acrylic painting art class with Neil Orlowski, ongoing weekly on Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Students of all levels are invited to join in anytime, as Neil will be there to help you achieve your desired artistic goals. Classes are $35 per 3-hour class, or prepay for 4 classes at $120. For classes, email Neil Orlowski at yahoo.com. For more information, contact the gallery at tizartgallery.com. Got any good junk? There's a talented artist who can make something creative from it. The Arts Prescott Cooperative Gallery presents the found object sculptures of special guest artist Debbie Thomas. Using odds and ends of machinery, nuts, bolts, and kitchen tools, Thobots are created depicting people or animals, welded in a creatively unique design that is sure to give a sense of wonder and humorous delight. Meet the artist on Friday, February 26th, with the show running through March 24th. For more details, go to artsprescott.com. Wow, so many great events, it's hard to choose which one to go to. Do you have an event that we can share with our viewers at AZ Creates? Then send us an email at azcreates.artonlineaz@gmail.com. And remember to stay safe and continue to support these creative and talented artists so we can all have something to look forward to. See you next time.
Thanks, Cathy. And Cathy is also a textile and product designer. You can check out her work starting with her Facebook page at Cathy Beard DIEPENBROCK. What are you reading? Our featured author segment is coming up next. AZ Creates is sponsored by Sibley's West, the Chandler and Arizona gift shop in historic downtown Chandler. A strong supporter of Arizona creatives, Sibley's West features work from more than 200 artists specializing in Arizona items and souvenirs, including art, pottery, food, jewelry, and much more. Now open at 72 South San Marcos Place in Chandler, online shopping is also available with convenient and safe curbside pickup. Visit www.sibleyswest.com for details.
In our author segment today, what are you reading? We have a writer from Prescott who has tackled a wide variety of genres. AZ Creates welcomes John J. Rust. How are you today, John?
I'm doing fine, Laurie. How are you doing?
I'm great. Glad to have you here today. Now, you have published some 18 books so far, including in sci-fi, in sports, action-adventure, history, and would it be fair to say that you never met a genre you didn't like?
Well, as far as never meeting a genre I didn't like, maybe straight up romance. I could write in just about anyone, like you said, action, adventure, history, sports, but I can do a love story within different genres, but straight up romance, like I think after 20 pages of talking about feelings or whatever, I just have the need to write about things blowing up.
And you do have a nice love story in the book we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But so you did study communications And you've been working in radio for a number of years. You're currently sports director at Prescott radio station KYCA. So how did you get into writing fiction?
Well, I've been writing for a long time. It goes back to when I was in high school. I wrote for our school newspaper. I wrote for the literary magazine, and I've just been a big reader. I love watching sci-fi, and because I have such an overactive imagination, sometimes I'd watch or read some story, and afterwards I'd think, well, hey, I'd like to do this story or that story, or what if I come up with this plot? So I started writing for the Lit Mag. I did some other stuff when I was in college, and then eventually when I graduated, that's when I started writing first some freelance articles. Then I wrote on fanfiction.net. And my first novel was 2011 when I came up with a military sci-fi thriller titled Dark Wings. And since then, 17 more books to my credit.
You do definitely have an overactive imagination. I will give you that. But now you also mentioned that you write about, and I had to look this one up, cryptozoology, a subculture that aims to prove the existence of entities from the folklore record, such as Bigfoot and Chupacabra. How did you get interested in writing about folklore creatures?
Well, it goes back to when I was a kid. Growing up outside of Trenton, New Jersey, we were wedged in between New York and Philadelphia. And every Saturday morning, some of the UHF stations in those cities would run like all day monster movie marathons. So I just developed a huge interest in monsters. And then when I was a kid, there was a show called In Search Of, which actually Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock, used to host. And that would delve into Bigfoot and the Yeti and the Loch Ness Monster and all sorts of weird, strange phenomenon. And just after that, I just developed a huge interest in creatures, unknown creatures that could exist in this world. And when you look around at how much of the ocean we have not explored, how many vast swaths of jungle and forest like the Amazon, like the Congo, even in the Pacific Northwest there are. Who knows what kind of creatures could be hiding there that we have not discovered yet.
And I remember that Leonard Nimoy show, now that you mention it. And you do have dragons in one of your latest books, and the world that you write about is very believable that those dragons live in. Tell us a little bit more about Operation Beast Slayer.
Well, Operation Beast Slayer, it deals with a United States Marine attack helicopter pilot, Mikado McShane, and he and his flight are involved in a NATO exercise in Norway. And while they're there, first they come across a race of 30-foot stone giants. And well, when you have giants, they got to go around and they got to smash cities in any good monster story. And at the height of the conflict, a fire-breathing dragon shows up. So Mikado, and he teams up with mythology professor Ylva, and of course that's where the love story you were talking about earlier comes in. So they have to try to find out where these creatures came from and how they can be stopped.
And it was a very, very interesting story. Lots of action in it. And the book, as you mentioned, has a very strong military angle. Were you in the military?
I never served in the military. I've had relatives who served. I had a cousin who was actually in command of a self-propelled artillery platoon in Germany. I had an uncle in the Navy. My father was in the Army too. He was in communications. But I've just always had a fascination with military history, military equipment. I do a lot of research into that, watch a lot of documentaries and interviews with veterans to try and talk to a lot of veterans too. Just to try to get as authentic a military experience as possible in my books. Obviously, I think someone who actually served in the military could probably read some of my stuff and maybe ding me on a point or two that I missed, which has happened before.
Well, but I thought it was very believable anyway, so I think the majority of it certainly worked. So, John, if you would, why don't you read a short segment from Operation Beast Slayer?
Can do. Here we go. There it is. McShane held the Viper steady, watching the Jotnar march through the forest. One swung its arms, snapping off the tops of two trees like toothpicks. Hellfire 1 locked, reported Johnson. Hellfire 6 locked. The other gunner/co-pilots of Hammer Flight radioed they had lock with their missiles. Berdahl slid his Huey near Hadastad's, lining up the left Jotun for a rocket barrage. The monsters knocked down more trees. One looked to the sky. The other two did the same. McShane aimed a harsh gaze at them. Fire! Two Hellfires whooshed off the Viper's rails. More contrails raced through the air. Yellow streaks flew from the Huey's rocket launchers. McShane held his breath, watching the 8 missiles draw closer to their targets. He leaned forward in his seat, waiting. Clouds of black and orange sprouted across the large torsos of the Jotnar. Other explosions churned up the ground around the monsters. Unguided rockets from the Norwegian Hueys. Suck on that, mother. What? Eastwick blurted. Are you kidding me? All 3 Jotnar tromped through the smoke, unfazed by the explosions.
That is great. And you write action really, really well. Were you a military pilot ever? Or a pilot of any kind?
Actually, no, I wasn't. In fact, sometimes I'm actually a white knuckle flyer the times I've actually flown.
Well, that part was also very believable about the pilot on the helicopter. Okay, John, how about a little lightning round here, if you would? How have you been faring during the pandemic?
Well, I guess as best as possible. Lucky for me, I'm one of these people who I just like to keep busy and find different things to keep myself busy. Obviously, writing is one of them. Lately I've gotten out some of my old baseball cards, and as you can see behind me, I've done a baseball card wall collage. But I mean, it's been tough, especially during the periods at work when I've had no games to cover, and it does wear on you mentally when there are things that you like doing that you can no longer do. You know, getting together with friends and other people for certain events, or going to concerts, or going, say, to a Diamondbacks game or a Coyotes game or something like that. But I've done the best I could with, like I think a lot of other people have.
And then you kept your job during this time too?
Yes.
That's great. That's great. So what is your best time to create?
Well, probably the best time I have for writing is in the afternoons. And lucky for me, I usually work the morning shift, or a few hours in the morning at KYCA. And then the games I cover are usually late afternoon or early evening. So I kind of have a nice block late morning and into the afternoon where I can get some writing done. And of course, the creativity, that's at its peak right there.
Absolutely. Good. And what about advice for aspiring writers?
Number one, just keep writing. But I think another thing is, the one piece of advice I just hate hearing is when people say, write what you know, because if all we ever did was write what we know, all my stories would involve a Jersey transplant who's a sports director at a small town radio station in Arizona. To me, it's write what interests you. And again, like, I've never served in the military, but I'm interested in the military. And certainly I've never been part of an organization that hunted cryptids. Again, the name you give to creatures like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster has never been discovered. I've never been in a group that's gone hunting for them, but I'm interested in that. So you do a bunch of research and you can write a pretty convincing story about hunting cryptids, or in the case of Operation Beast Slayer, strapping on a Viper attack helicopter and blowing the you-know-what out of some of these monsters.
That's right. And, I use that tip in a writing group of mine about not necessarily writing what you know, but writing what interests you. I think that is a very good point. So, hey, John, I don't know what kind of spring training we're going to have in Arizona this year, but You also have a book called The Best Dodgers Team Ever that sports enthusiasts might want to check out. So you can find out more about John on Amazon, Facebook, and Twitter, and other sites by searching for John J. Rust. Thanks again for talking with us today, John.
Hey, thank you again for the opportunity, Laurie. Appreciate it. You have a good day.
Thank you so much. You too.
Be back again in 2 weeks when we'll introduce you to metal sculptor and 3D printer Kevin Carone, and we'll introduce you to romance and mystery writer Margaret Spence. We will highlight the Always Facebook group for writers, and that is the Alliance for Literary Writers, Authors, and Yabbering Scribes. And Cathy will be back with more arts events for you. To commemorate Black History Month, we leave you with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" Certainly that is a question everyone can ask themselves, but I like to think that we artists create not only for ourselves, but for others as well. And that is enriching the world. We so appreciate your time today, and we hope that you'll connect with our creatives by checking out the show notes below. And if you've watched this or other YouTube videos, you know the drill. We love subscribers, we love comments, and we'd love for you to get a notification for this show. We'd also love for you to share this video with others. We also promote fine art and fine artists on our social media pages on Instagram and Facebook at ArtOnlineAZ. And there you will also find other arts events that are coming up. Keep enriching the lives of others, whether it's through your art or in whatever you do. Meanwhile, stay safe and healthy and make it a creative day. See you next time.